Hi everyone, welcome to part 4 of this tutorial series on how to create this red robin hedge. In part 1 we hand painted our leaf and branch components in Photoshop. In part 2 we modelled our hedge using Blender's geometry nodes. In the third part we created our final textures in Substance Designer. In this final part we're going to go back into Blender, apply our textures to our mesh, set up some lighting and a turntable, and then do a still and an animated render using cycles. Let's get started. Okay, so to start off, I've created this display turntable that we're going to put our hedge on. You can just go and download it from shop.azora3d.co.uk. You just click on it here and then just buy it, it's free. It will give you a blend file, so you can just put that into your project folder with your other blend file, or you can put it anywhere on your computer. Just go and get it. And the other thing you're going to need is a HDRI. Now I'm using this one here, Symmetrical Garden 02. It's from Polyhaven, and you can just go and get that for free as well. I've got a HDRI folder on my computer. I just save any that I like into there, but you can also just put it in your project folder if you like, and we'll go and set it up in a minute. Okay, so once you've downloaded those two items, I want you to open up the turntable.blend file, and this is what you're going to be greeted with. What we're going to do is we're going to put this into the asset library, and then we'll use the asset library to bring it into our hedge file. So what we need to do is go to Edit, Preferences, and then down to File Paths. This here is your asset library section, and as you can see I've already got one library set up called Azora 3D, and this is just pointing to a path on my computer, and what it will do is it checks this file and every subfolder for blend files that have assets in them. So if you don't have anything here, what you'll need to do is click on there. It's going to open up your browser. Pick where you want your asset library to be. Say for example, if we go back here, say that we just wanted this folder here, we can add it to the asset library, and it will list it there, and it will also tell you exactly where the path is for it. So yeah, just set up your library. I'm going to delete that one because I don't need that. And then just come out. So next, in order to tell Blender that this is an asset that we want to put in our asset library, come up to here, right click and mark as asset. See, it gets that little library symbol next to it. And then it will also appear down in our asset library here. If you don't already have this asset library open, you can just go and select it from here, choose any window that you want, and just go and select Asset Browser there. So we've got it in here, but it immediately goes into unassigned because there's nowhere else for it to go yet. Just need to go and click in All, New Asset Catalogue, and then we can just rename this. Let's call it Turntables, just in case we ever have any other turntables. Or you could call it Props or anything you want. Just click the little save thing there. And then we're going to go to Unassigned, where it currently is, and we're just going to drag it into Turntables instead. And there it is. Can I save our file and close it down? Now just going to immediately open up our hedge file from here. So open recent. The one I'm currently using is Red Robin Hedge 1, but yours is probably just called Hedge. Open that up, and that is exactly how we left our blend file the last time we used it. So first thing we want to do in here is we want to get rid of our colour grid textures that we've put on here, and we want to bring in our new textures that we made in Substance Designer. So let's go over to our shading panel. I'm going to turn off face orientation, we don't need that anymore. You can also switch it to render view. It's dark at the moment, but we're going to set up some lights in a minute. So in the shading view, we've currently got Hedge planes as the active material. Going to just control and right click to cut that. And what you need to make sure here is that you have Node Wrangler enabled. It's an add-on that comes with Blender. So let's just go up to Edit, Preferences, then Add-ons, and just make sure that that is ticked there. And with that on, select your principled BSDF and hit Ctrl-Shift-T. We then need to go to our Finished Textures folder. And as this one was for our planes, we need to go and select all of the planes textures that we did. So that is everything from there to there, and bring them in. And with the Node Wrangler enabled, that sets all of these up for us so that we don't have to do them one node at a time. Just move the colour grid off to the side. I don't think we're going to need that again, but we'll just keep it there just in case. And just check that everything looks fine. It's given us a normal node for the normal map, alpha for our opacity map, roughness for the roughness map, and the only one left is base colour for our base colour. All looks set up correctly. We'll switch over here from Hedge planes to Hedge base, and then we'll go and do the exact same thing again. So cut that, move it over here, Ctrl-Shift-T, and select all of our base ones, which is from there to there. That all looks really good. So now let's go and set up the render engine and get some lighting in the scene. And if we go over here to the render panel, currently on Eevee, I'm going to switch it to cycles, just like how it looks a bit better. You also need to switch it, if you're using a dedicated GPU, switch it over to GPU compute. And then the settings for the render down here, they all look okay as I've got them. That is what I usually use. I use 512 max samples. If we go to the output, currently got it set to 1920 by 1080. I think what I'm going to do is change it to a square. So if we go 1920 square, and then if we want higher resolution, we can put that up to 200 or something like that, but we'll see how we go. Now up again in our preferences, if you go to system, and you just want to make sure that you've got the right option here for your video card. For me, I've got an NVIDIA, I use optics, I think CUDA's also an option. Just have a little read up and see which is going to be the best option for your video card. So next, let's go over to the world panel. And in the surface, we need to set up something other than this horrible grey colour. So we click on the little dot here. I'm going to choose environment texture. And that's immediately going to go pink to tell us that we've got a missing texture there. So let's open it, and we need to go and find our HDRI that we downloaded. So mine is in the root of this folder here, and I've got a folder called HDRIs. And that is the one that I'm choosing, but you can go with anyone that you like the look of. Just download a few from Polyhaven and just have a play with them. So as you can see there, we've got it as the background, and it's also affecting the light. Got a lot more light all of a sudden. Now in the shading panel, as we're already in, if you switch it over to world here instead of object, you can then see that we have our HDRI right here. we're basically seeing in node form what we've got here. And if you press Ctrl T here, it will give us some mapping and texture coordinates, which then allows us to play with the rotation and the scale if you wanted to. You can have a little go at it, but what I would recommend is just rotating it on the Z until you get the sun where you like and the hedge looks nice. If you have a look up, you can find the sun. Yeah, the sun is quite like directly overhead, so it's not going to make a huge difference. What you can do is you can also rotate it on the Y and the X, or just the Y, which will then bring the sun down more, and then you'll get more of a sunsetty sort of view. But anyway, I'm going to leave that at 0. We're going to have a high sun and just rotate the Z until you like it. I think that there's absolutely fine. Got some nice shade going on under there and light on the top. So just need to hide these 4 planes here because we don't need those to be in the view. Next we're going to bring in our turntable that we put in our asset library. So what we need to do, if we go to the layout panel, what I like to do is duplicate it. So right click on it, duplicate, and then we're going to create a new layout that's just for our asset browser. So let's just call this assets, or you can call it library or whatever you want. Assets, and then just change this here to the asset browser. Bring it up, and then if you go to the correct library, mine's Azura 3D, you can see we've got this turntable catalogue, and hopefully it will bring in our turntable for us. At some point. There we go. So let's just drag that in, put it there. Yep, the grass and the flowers collections, those can be switched off because we only need those for the geometry nodes. We've got our 3D cursor in the centre there. So if we right click on this and snap selection to cursor, and then I think what we'll do is we'll bring the hedge up. Just bring it up there for now because we're going to need to scale this turntable up. Just want it to be slightly bigger than the hedge, but not by much. I think that's fine. Bring the hedge up to meet it, like that. If we switch to render view, we need to switch face orientation off again. Okay. As you can see, the hedge is now a bit high up, so let's just bring that down. There we go. And that's looking nice. Only thing I would say is the colour of the grass doesn't really go with the greens in the hedge, so let's just alter those. So the turntable, it comes with the geometry node that I used to make it. And it also comes with the material. You can go in and edit those if you want. So if we switch over to the shading view first, switch this back to object, and as you can see here, click back off there a second, We have base material, and we've got various materials. They're just really basic materials, just with a colour. We've got base, flower centre, grass, and then we've got 3 different petal colours, which you can change to whatever you like. So I would say with the base colour, that's for the actual turntable base. We can go in and I'll make this more of a lighter yellowy green to go with the leaves in here. Maybe just put more yellow in it, a bit more saturation, and then just bring the value up slightly. Switch over to the grass and just do the same there. That base colour just switched back. I don't know what happened there. Okay, let's just make the grass a bit more yellowy. A little bit darker, but a bit more saturation, I think. That'll be nice. Yep, I like that. That's fine. You can change the flower colours if you want to. Okay, I think that's fine. You can also go into edit mode in the hedge, and if you want to just reshape it a little bit, if you're not keen on that shape that I've done, you can do whatever you like to it. I think I'm fairly happy with that though, so I'm just going to keep it as is. You can also switch over to geometry nodes. If we go to over here, where's it gone? There we go. And you can play with the amount of grass. See, we've got our grassy knoll geometry nodes here. This is for the grass. This frame here is for the flowers. So you could go to the distribute points on faces, and you could turn the density up if your computer can cope with it. You can change the seed. On the instance on points, you could also play with the scale as well, if the grass looks a bit big for you. You could bring it down a bit, say 0.05. You might prefer that. Do whatever you want with it, it's your render. Yeah. Just going to bring the hedge down a little bit now. Okay. I think I will try and put the grass up a little bit more though in density. It might be best to save it, just in case it crashes. And if you want, you can also switch it to Poisson disk to get a bit more control over it. So you can switch your density max up. The density min is currently at 0, so that's fine. You can try putting that up to 1000. Yeah, or beyond. Let's try 5000, see what happens. Oh yeah, nice. Okay, I like that. Play with the seed. I don't think that's going to make much difference. Okay, flowers. I think I'm pretty happy with those flowers, but you can turn the density up higher if you want more. Yeah, I think that's okay. Right, let's get our camera into place now. Go and switch on this folder here. I think I'm going to get rid of that light that we've got there. I don't think we're going to need it. Let's just delete that. Just going to switch to material mode for a second. Speed everything up. Press 0 to look through your camera. It's not positioned too bad. I think I'm going to bring it this way though. I just prefer it looking from the right for some reason, but you can position your camera any way you like. If you want to dolly it in and out, you need to have your camera selected and go G and Z, Z. And then you can just pull your mouse in and out and it will just zoom. Gonna pull it a little bit further down, I think. Whoa, okay, not quite like that. That's looking okay. Pointed slightly down at an angle, but not too much. Actually, I don't think I want to be seeing the bottom of this hill like that, so let's just move the camera up. Okay, that's looking nice. I like the trees in the background as well and how everything is in that, so I think we'll keep it like that. This hedge does look like it's still floating a bit, so let's just bring that down. Another thing that you might like to do before we render is we're going to our hedge and go back into our geometry nodes. You might like to just rotate the planes a little bit more. So our rotation is coming from this random rotation node here, random value node. Let's set those back to 0 for a moment. And everything goes back square again. You might not want the exact same rotation on every axis. So maybe just do each one separately until you get something you like. You want to try and make sure these corners are covered if you can, so that you don't have any sharp corners to your hedge. It might also be a good idea to turn the density of the planes up. So if we come over to the distribute points on faces and just turn the density max up, and that should make it all look fuller. We can switch it over to another view and then you can see a little bit better where the sharp corners are showing or where you've got any gaps. I think that is looking much better now. Okay, let's go into camera view. That's looking good. You can try and rotate the hedge on the Z axis if you want to just turn it around a little bit. Give it a look. Oh, I think that was pretty good as it was. We'll have it about there. Okay, before we hit render, let's just go and check all our settings out, see if we need to change anything. If we go over to the render panel, we've got cycles and GPU compute selected. I'm happy with 512 samples for the render. We've got denoise switched on. Let's go to the output. I think I'm going to actually turn that up to 200%. And then if we go to our view layer, just a couple of things we need to make sure are on. Whoops, we need to do an environment pass, as we want to be able to separate our environment here from the hedge. And we're also going to switch the crypto matte object on so that we can make a mask of the hedge and the grassy knoll. I think that is it. So let's hit F12 to render and let's see what happens. Got the samples fairly high, so it'll take a little while. Okay, so that's looking nice. There's a few things we can do to make it look a bit better though. First of all, we've got our environment here in the background and it is very clearly a photograph. So we're going to go into the compositing workspace and we're going to blur the background out so that it looks like scenery in the background, but it's going to be more blurred. And then we're probably just going to contrast this a little bit and just see what we can do to make it look better. So we can just close this and go into the compositing workspace. You need to click use nodes and then it will give us a render layer node and our output node. This one here is a viewer. With the viewer node, you can attach one of these to any node that we have here and view the output. Right now it's showing us our final output as seen through this node. What we can do to zoom out of this, if you go over to view and then you can just bring the zoom down here. We'll keep it like that. And you can just hit N to put that away. So in our render layer node, we have this environment output and we have some crypto object outputs now that wouldn't have been there if we hadn't gone and turned on those options in the view layer. So those options will only appear if you switch these on. And if you want to cycle through these outputs in the viewer node, all you have to do is click on the node and it's Control Shift left mouse button. Oh yeah, you have to click on the node and keep doing it and it will cycle through them all and show you what it's given you. So the environment one that we did, we have a black mask in the middle and just our environment. Keep clicking through. That's our crypto object. There's our hedge crypto object, and that one's the grassy knoll. And the other two are blank. So let's put it back up to image. So first, let's blur our background like we talked about so that it doesn't look so much like a photograph. Just hit Shift A. And we're going to just search for a blur node. And there are quite a few now, but we're just going to go for a normal blur. Pop that there. And we're just going to connect our environment pass up to the image. We can connect it to the viewer so that we can just see this. And then if we turn the blur up, we can see what's going to happen. you can see, that's all blurring nicely. Just want to blur it enough so that you can't tell it's a photo anymore. That's all we really want to do. I think maybe 60 might be okay. Maybe a bit more, 80. Yeah, that's good. So we have our background ready, and we're going to need an alpha over node in order to mix the foreground with the background. So let's pull these over a little bit and get an alpha over. This one needs to go into this one. And then for now, we can plug our main image into that one. And plug this into the viewer. Okay, so for now, all it's showing you is the first rendered image. The background isn't blurred because this one is underneath that one. So what we do need to do now is we need to remove the hedge and the grassy knoll from the background. And for that, we'll get a cryptomat node. So Shift A, cryptomat is right there, and we're going to just add that to that noodle there. So it already has our view layer selected here, we only have one. So all we need to do is where it says mat ID here, we need to go and pick our objects. So click on the plus, it'll give you a little picker. And right now we're hovering over hedge. If we hover down here, it'll hover over the grassy knoll. We just need to pick both of those. So we've got hedge, and now go and get grassy knoll. And now, as you can see, we have our two objects with the blurred background, just like we wanted. Only thing left to do now is I want to add an RGB curves and just have a little look at the contrast. Let's just put that in there, and then after our alpha over we will add an RGB curves node. So Shift A, RGB curves, pop that on there, that to the viewer. Just going to move the nodes out of the way so we can see the background image a little better. Okay, so all we really want to do here, we're going to put a couple of points on this curve and just bring them a little bit closer together. We're going to make a little bit of an L shape, and as we're doing this you will see the colours change on the backdrop image. Like, as you can see there, that is like a lot of contrast. Don't want that much. Let's just nudge it back slightly more this way. And there's no real right or wrong way to do this really, just have a play with it until you're happy with the result. Yeah, I like that, I'm happy with that for our still image. Actually, just one more thing. If we just open the zoom again and just zoom it out a little bit. Yeah, so we've got too much like empty space around this hedge. What we're going to do is use a crop node, and we're just gonna crop it to like that sort of size, so we haven't got so much environment in the background. Okay, so Shift A, crop node. You can put this before or after the RGB curves. Let's just drop it in there. It's going to default to 1920 by 1080. So if you remember when we rendered, we had it set to 1920 square, but 200%. So it's going to be just under 4,000 pixels. So if we come in here and set it to 3,000, and just see what that gives us. That's not bad. Only thing is now it's slightly off centre, so all we need to do is on the x-axis just slide it along a bit until it's a bit better. Just get it as close to the centre as we can. Getting there. This is very slow, this crop node. Maybe just crop it a little bit more. Let's go for, say, 2,800. Yeah, that's nice. Only thing left to do to this now is to save our composited image. So to do that, you just need to hit F11. That's going to open us an image editor, and then up here we just need to select viewer node. If you leave it at render result, it's going to give you the original render, which we don't want. The viewer node gives you the one we did the work to in the compositor. So we've got that up, and then you just save it like you usually do. Image, save as. Let's make a new folder, and we will call it renders. Why not? Yeah, go in there. I think I'm going to save it as a JPEG and just call it Red Robin Hedge, or Hedge Red Robin. Doesn't really matter as long as you know what it is. Red Robin, and save. And that's our still image done. Next we're going to animate a turntable. So let's just close this window. Okay, so I just went for a coffee, and when I came back I realised that I've made a bit of a mistake with something, but thankfully it's very easy to fix. So I'm going to just show you what I've done. Go to the layout. Just turn off the face orientation. Now, if we have a look here, you'll see in some parts we've got the wrong end of the branch sticking out. You might be able to see it a bit better in render view. So, like there, for example, we've got the wrong end sticking out, and it is happening in other places as well. Big one there. And that is because go back over here. If we switch our planes on, you'll see that our origin point of each plane is still in the centre, and where it really needs to be is down at the base of the branch right here, because that is the part that is attaching to the base of the hedge here. So really easy fix. All I need to do, first of all, we'll select all of these, go into edit mode, just bring them all upwards like that, and you'll see that they're already moving outwards on the hedge there. So that's fairly close, but then we'll just go into each individual one and do them properly. So with this one, move the base of the branch to the point. Same with this. We can now turn those back off. And then if we go back over here, you'll see that that issue is now completely gone and all the planes are all sticking out from the hedge the right way. And now that we've changed that, you might want to go back into geometry nodes and just mess with the random values again, just to make sure that it's all looking good. I'm going to bring these back down to 0. And then just adjust them from there. Just want to make sure that all of the base mesh is covered. Don't forget you can also play with the seed, because that can just sometimes help to get everything exactly how you want it. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to hit F12 to re-render it. And because we've already got our compositing nodes all set up, those will just be applied automatically when it's finished. Okay, just switch it to viewer node so that we don't have that transparency around it. And then we just go and save it again. Saved it into renders, and we'll just save over this one. So we'll close our render window, and now we're ready to go and do our animation. Okay, so I'm going to do a little save. I'm going to do an incremental save just because I'm recording. You can just save normally if you like. And then we're going to switch to the layout view. Over here, you should have a timeline right at the bottom here. If you don't, then just open this up here and just switch to timeline. And then I'm going to switch this to 200 frames. You can stay at 250 if you like, it'll just take longer to do one turn. Okay, going to select our camera, and I'm going to rename it to camera still. Then we're going to Shift D, duplicate it. I'm going to turn the camera still one off. We'll just hide it, and then we're going to name the second one to camera animation. Okay, if we go down into our render settings, I want to change, first of all, going to turn the samples down for the video, otherwise the render will take forever. Let's just turn it down to 50 samples for now and see how we get on. We're going to do a test render first anyway, just to see what it looks like. Okay, going to go to the output settings, and I'm going to change the resolution of the camera back to a HD one. So we're going to go for HD TV 1080, and we'll keep it at 100% for now. In scene properties, we will change the active camera to camera animation, and then we'll hit numpad 0 to look through our camera. Okay, going to hit this little padlock symbol here to lock the camera to the view, and then however we move our camera, our view, the camera will come with it. So just want to get turn render view on. And then as we zoom in, zoom out and reposition our view, the camera just follows it. Yep, I think that looks nice. Let's unlock it and then come out camera view. Next we'll hit 7 and go into overhead view. And we're going to add a curve circle. So Shift A, curve circle. That's going to centre it in our world there. And scale it out. You can find our camera. We need to scale it out all the way to where the camera's sitting, right at the very end there. Like so. And then next we're going to select the camera, then the circle, Control P, and we're going to parent the camera to the circle with follow path. Now you'll see that it's drawn a line from the camera to this point here, and that is just because it selected that point in the circle. Next we're going to add an empty, so Shift A, empty, and we'll get a plane axis. Again, that's going to put it right in the centre because that's where our cursor is. We're going to scale it right up so we can see it properly. And then we're going to bring the centre of the axis up towards the middle of the hedge. This is going to be where the camera is going to be looking at, so if you put it roughly in the centre of the hedge like that, that should work great. So with our camera selected, let's press 0 to look through it. And then if we go down here to constraints, we're going to add an object constraint to the camera. We're going to choose track 2. And then under the object, we're going to select the axes. And as you'll notice, it just moved it in alignment with our axes, with the centre, so it's now looking directly at the centre. So what we can do now, just to bring that back up again, just select the axes and grab on Z, and just bring the whole thing back up to where you want it. I think that's looking nice. Now if we just move our timeline along a little bit, you just want to check that that all moves nicely around and it all looks even, which I think it does. And that's our starting point there at 0, which all looks good. Okay, so before we start rendering any animations out, I just want to do a still render just to test this out, because we do have compositing nodes in action here. So if we just hit F12 and have a look what it gives us. Okay, so as we can see, we have our crop node still working, which we don't want. We want this to be full HD resolution. But as for everything else, looks good, the lighting looks nice, colours all look good. So let's just go back to our compositing. And all we want to do is mute the crop node. And that's what it'll give us for our animation. Right, so if we go back to our layout workspace, and then into our output properties, I want to go down to the output panel here. By default, Blender is going to render our animation out into this temporary folder. So let's just change that so that we don't have to move it. which is here. Go into our renders folder, and then we'll just make a new folder and call it animation. Hit accept. You can see it's changed the path there. For the file format, we're going to stick with PNG. You can render it straight as a video if you like, but as it takes a long time, if your computer crashes in the meantime, you've lost the entire thing. Whereas if it's rendering just each frame as a PNG, then if it gets so far and crashes, you've still got those renders that it did do. So we're going to choose PNG. And just one more thing that I almost forgot about. If we play the animation right now, just scrub along here, you'll see that in 200 frames, it's actually, the camera's actually going around the circle twice. And that is because we haven't set the animation path properly on the circle. So click on the circle, go to the data properties, and under path animation, you'll see that it's set to 100 frames. So that means that it will take 100 frames to go around the circle once. So we just need to double that so that it's just going to go around one time in our 200 frames. So now if we go back to our timeline and move it along, there you go, 1 revolution. So we're all set up and it's time to render. So we'll just go up here to our render panel and just hit render animation. And now you get to watch it do all 200 renders one at a time. That took just under 19 minutes. Let's close this render window down and let's do a little save. And now we just need to turn our 200 renders into a video. So we're going to go up to here and we're going to add a video editing workspace. We'll go to add, image sequence, and then if you're in the right folder, just select all 200 frames. Hold shift and click to get them all. And we'll do our start frame at 1. End frame is obviously 200. And everything else is fine at default, and then just add. We can hit spacebar to preview it. Just make sure it all lines up nicely together. Nice. We can go up to our output panel up here. Just scroll down to here, and this time we want to do an MPEG video. Hit that. And go up to render and render animation. Okay, that's done. Close it down. And that's it, we're done. I really hope you enjoyed this course. I really enjoyed making it. It's my first series that I've done. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be bringing out lots more videos. See you soon.